All right. Well, I am excited to be hosting this webinar with some excellent panelists from across the industry. My name is Alex Pazuchanics. I'm the head of policy at Vianova. We're a company that focuses on the intersection between shared mobility data and the real world practitioners. My role in this process is to think a little bit about our the key question: what happens when new mobility becomes just mobility? In other words, we've seen the emergence of many different new technologies over the last couple of years that have transformed the way that people move throughout cities. But at some point, these new modes are going to just be a regular function of the way in which people operate. And it's quite important to think about how, particularly as we think about our goals around decarbonization and Vision Zero, these modes intersect and interact in the real world. I think in the sense of Vision Zero, you typically have this triangle, right? The three E's: engineering, education, and enforcement as the three strategies of Vision Zero and safety improvement. And to that, I think I'd like to propose or to add a fourth, which is a question of evidence. In other words, how does data and the role of data make decision making easier around safety? So over the last couple of months, Vianova has been working on exploring this space more, understanding data from both shared mobility as well as traditional vehicles, floating cars, in order to understand and identify risks for vulnerable road users, and think truly about a multimodal approach to safety, not just an approach that favors one mode or another. Thinking about the combination of data sets together in order to better understand how these modes can work off of one another or combine and form interesting and unique new insights. So I'm joined today by three panelists who I think excel in answering these questions of what's working and simultaneously what needs to change. So I'm going to hand over the presentation to Wernher Brucks from the city of Zurich to talk a bit about the work the city has undertaken so far and where they're headed next. Wernher?
Thank you, Alex. Welcome from Zurich as well. I'm very happy to be here and share our experiences with road safety and shared micromobility. Here in Zurich, we have micromobility has arrived some 4 to 5 years ago. Today, we have 5 companies running 4,000 vehicles on a free-floating basis, as in many other cities as well. And from the very beginning, the issue of public safety has been on the agenda on the very top. It's always a political issue here. It's always discussed in the public, in the media, what happens to road safety and public safety in relation to these, especially shared e-scooters. So we have since then put into action some regulations by using the Vianova platform that Alex has mentioned. We can do this because the operation of these vehicles needs a permit here in Zurich, and in this permit we are stating regulations and enforcing them also by this platform that I just mentioned. Next slide, please. Thank you. First, the baseline is, as I said, it's 4,000 e-scooters at the moment. And since 3 years, our police department is also collecting these kind of accident or crash data, which was, of course, also new for them to collect a new kind of data, a new kind of mobility form. And this is very helpful because now today we can we can have a first impression on how it developed. The blue columns that you see here is police data of e-scooter crashes in absolute numbers. divided into crashes with others, collisions, so to say, and downfalls. I hope this is the right word in English. It's when somebody falls off the e-scooter without external influence, just for any other reason. And as you can see, the numbers went up in the last 3 years, but this doesn't mean the risk has changed. In the background, you see these light gray columns that we only have because we are getting the data from the operators. This is unique here because, for example, in bicycle traffic, we are not able to do this kind of risk analysis, because of course we know the crash data of bicycles as well, but not so much the exposition data. And with scooters, this is possible. So in sum, the risk has not gone up because the exposition of e-scooters has is almost proportional to the increase in crashes. And as what we also see is that the downfalls of the scooter is 2/3 of all incidents. That is unique also to e-scooter mobility. Next slide, please. And then, of course, what you already may know is that these falls from the scooter are focused on a very particular pattern. It's young males riding an e-scooter on the weekend at night and then fell off, most of them because of abuse of alcohol. You see this very well. The blue lines are the weekend nights and the yellow lines are the weekdays. Even the weekdays are for a traffic planner a very special pattern, because the hill at night, the usage at the evening is much higher than in the morning. This is very unusual because, for example, with cars, this is also in the morning, it has an increase. But here with e-scooters, it's only in the evening. And this means this kind of mobility is also very much related to going out and maybe also taking it to the way home. Okay, next slide. So this was the baseline. So it shows that road safety concerning e-scooters has become an issue, and maybe will it become much more in the future. And I give you some examples what we are doing against it. Of course, for the e-scooter, almost everybody else is bigger or stronger except pedestrians. Pedestrians are maybe the only ones that can suffer from an e-scooter collision, and a very good measure against it is slowing down zones. For example, you see on the screenshot on the right, the old town of Zürich, really the center, and we have electronically enforced slow zones. That means e-scooters are slowing down from 20 kilometers to 5 to 7 kilometers. In the end, that makes them pedestrians. They do no more harm to anybody. And you also see in the graph that this works very well. In our old town, first there were a lot of scooters running 20 kilometers an hour, and now there are only 5, and they are not so much used anymore because most clients do not want to use an e-scooter with 5 kilometers an hour. Next slide, please. Another example, what we do is we have integrated e-scooter safety into our crowd management in big events that we have here in Zurich. For the biggest one is probably very well known. It's the street parade. I think it's the biggest techno parade in the world, attracting more than 1 million visitors every year. And on the picture, you see that this is really crowd management. And of course, e-scooters can be, if they stand everywhere on the street, they can be a danger in situations of panic or other difficult situations. And what we do here is we apply temporary regulations no-go zones and also parking zones at the periphery of the no-go zones, so at the edges of the no-go zones, so that all scooter users can park their vehicle and then go to the event bike route. And this, we have done this on the last street parade, and our police report made the feedback that it went very well. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah, and for me, a very clear conclusion is that many of the road safety issues that we have with e-scooters are related to infrastructure. And infrastructure is really the top key, the top solution to not only to bicycle traffic safety, but also to e-scooter safety, because at least here in Switzerland, they're using the same surface on the street. And the example that I've taken here is the one from Berlin. Berlin made a huge survey on where people want to ride a bike, and this is applicable to e-scooters too. And you see these numbers on the left. The picture on the left-hand side shows who wants to ride on the street, mixed with cars, mixed with big vehicles like trucks, with street side parking with 50 kilometers an hour. This is only 11% of the people who want to drive an e-scooter or a bicycle this way. And on the right-hand side, you see the a completely different situation, where 99% of all respondents want to ride a bicycle. So I unfortunately have to say that Zurich is now more to the left than to the right. We are working on it, but of course, this is one reason why e-scooter drivers and also bicyclists are using sidewalks. Yeah. Last slide. So my first conclusions from Zurich, our first conclusion is that safety has ever been an issue for shared e-scooters. It still is. It is very much related to user behavior, not so much to the vehicle itself, which is a misunderstanding in the public. It's much user behavior that is causing the conflicts. And what is really interesting for us traffic planners is that prevention for the first time can be done completely data-driven. For example, by using a platform such as Vianova's platform, not only that you can plan your interventions data-driven, you can also control them data-driven. And in the end, infrastructure is the key. You have to build infrastructure that is suitable, and then your road safety problems with bicycles and e-scooters will disappear to a large degree. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Wernher. Really insightful, and I think quite we benefit symbiotically from a culture that has such a strong emphasis on road safety. Thinking about and applying that to these new modes so that we can actually incorporate them as part of the broader transportation landscape. I want to transition to our next speaker, who is coming from the industry side. I think adding additional perspective as a result of that experience. So I'd like to hand it over to Emre from our partners at TIER.
Thank you very much, Alex. So as TIER Mobility, I can say that as a global micromobility provider, we see the road safety as one of the most important topics for us. And therefore, also we are working on a lot of projects to improve that, the road safety for riders, but also for non-riders. So next slide. Click. Perfect. Just a short overview for, no, one back, sorry. I think short overview of TIER. So we are the world's leading shared micro-mobility provider with more than 500 cities, over 300,000 vehicles, and close to 100 million rides last year, and also the first 100% climate neutral operator. Next slide. So TIER Mobility is fully committed to Vision Zero, which means for us to provide a safe and affordable transport option whilst eliminating incidents on roads. So this includes also the 4 parts, which is on the right side. So safety by design, safe behavior, and partnering for safety, which all leads to a preventative approach, preventing safety incidents before they happen. Next slide. Thank you. So safety by design means for us to design the most advanced and safest e-scooter on the market. As you can see, we are not alone. All the operators are trying to make that happen, to include a lot of different safety features, as indicators, phone holder with wireless charging, of course, a bell, beginner mode, where the first-time riders have the option to ride with reduced speed. As you see, that the scooter itself, it's quite robust with big wheels, dual handbrake, double kickstand. What else? Phone number of customer service if something is not okay. And also we have a dedicated team on the street changing the batteries, and also after every change they are doing a health check, a security safety check on every scooter, from the throttle to the bell to the brakes and so on. So to make sure that every scooter which is rent out is also safe. Next slide. Thank you. So as they say, don't blame the car, or in this case, don't blame the scooter, blame the rider. I have the feeling that as soon as it's about micro-mobility, they don't even blame the rider, they blame the provider. So we are dealing with this since 4 years, and also trying our best to really make safety a priority, and also on the rider side. But to be honest, also the safest scooter cannot protect the rider if they are not riding safe. So, and if they don't behave safe, so safety starts with user education on our side. So before every ride and after every ride, there is an in-app message explaining the rules, explaining the right behavior with a scooter, where to ride, where to park, and so on. Also, like Wernher explained before, cities have different rules, and we are implementing the rules, and also explained the users what the rules are. For example, no parking zones, or zones with dedicated parking zones, or reduced speed zones. And also additionally, we are creating safety campaigns with partners in every city almost. So for example, in Switzerland, we did a campaign with the Swiss Association for Blind and Visually Impaired to really show also the riders that they have to take care of the non-users. And also, I would say, yeah, the thing which is also unique to the micromobility industry is that we can force our riders to follow the specific rules, like non-parking or speed reduction. For example, if you drive a car in the city, then you have a speed limit, but if the police don't see you, or there is no camera catching you, then you can speed up. But with the e-scooters, we have the ability to really slow down and force them to the regulations, and also we can implement more tests, like this one coming up. Click. Yeah, so this is a test of if the rider is drunk or not. So you have to tilt your phone. We can just click through just a couple of slides. You have the right angle, and then also hold it for 2 seconds. And there are 3 different tests like this. And in the end, you will see if you have passed the test or not. So if you have passed it, you can find a vehicle and rent it. If not, you will be redirected to the public transport, or in some cases to taxi companies. Yes, next slide. So also, in order to reach the maximum amount of people, we are also partnering up with different associations. So maybe the two pictures on on left and right side, one is from the Grossi campaign. This is a campaign from Zürich, safety campaign, city of Zürich. Also, Wernher is leading that. So we were the first e-scooter company taking part in that, and also like put a sticker on every scooter in our whole fleet in Zürich, up to 800 scooters. And also on the right side, you see that we partnered up with a guide dog school near to Bern and gave them our scooters that they can train their dogs to react safe if a e-scooter is nearby. Next one. So briefly summarized, we are working daily towards our mission to change mobility for good. But this mission is one that nobody can achieve alone. So therefore, we have to work closely with the city officials and also different associations. And the last slide. So we have here 4 key learnings from e-scooter trials around the world. First of all, we see that infrastructure, like Wernher mentioned, is crucial for both rider safety, but also the number of rides, as people use active travel more if they feel safe. The second point on the right side is the role of regulation. So almost every city has their own rules, and in some cities, unfortunately, there are no rules at all. It is very important that the rules needs to be designed to prioritize safety. The third point is using technology as a tool. So all the rules are forced or implemented. We as a micromobility industry, which is expanding till to this date, so we are able to enforce the regulations to the riders, but also tackle safety challenges quickly on the technology side. And also the last point is the untapped potential of micromobility in cities. So the main challenge we are seeing here is to really tap into the potential and include the micromobility in the city, whilst not compromising safety and quality, and to really make sure that the rider and the non-rider feel safe when a scooter is around. That's all. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Emre. I think it's really amazing, the rapid evolution of the industry and how quickly things have changed, both in terms of the hardware, but then also in terms of the ability to do kind of the behavioral nudging and the education in app. When I was a program manager, shared mobility in 2019, 2020, it was still kind of a wish list, a nice to have. But I think it's showing how much the industry has evolved and matured in such a quick way that these tools are available now. Final panelist, I'd like to introduce Ousmane from DEKRA Digital to talk a bit about their role in the certification process, right? Thinking about how to legitimize and validate the needs of the cities and the ability to deliver on the operators side. Please make sure to add some Q&A questions to the chat, and we'll bring back all of our panelists after Ousmane goes to have kind of a round robin discussion. So Ousmane, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi everybody, and thanks Alex for the kind introduction. Yeah, could I have this first slide, please? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Ousmane Guer from DEKRA Digital. DEKRA Digital is the digital lab of DEKRA, which was established in 1925, so almost 100 years ago, to ensure road safety in connection with the rapidly developing mobility. At DEKRA Digital, my team is responsible for mobility as a service certification, and especially to ensure a safe and sustainable micromobility environment in cities. Our approach here is to act as an objective authority to highlight the challenges of both sides, those of the mobility as a service providers as well as the cities, and to contribute to safer, faster and more efficient mobility transition with the help of our safety and sustainability certification. Let's have a look at the challenges of the cities first. Next slide, please. Okay. Yeah, most of the complaints are from other road users here, pedestrians, etc., because they are affected by misused micromobility vehicles or lack of infrastructure to use micromobility in a way that it does not disturb anyone. Another challenge for the cities and municipalities is that it takes a lot of effort to figure out who the mobility providers are that actually provide the safest, most sustainable, and most beneficial mobility services. Since there are no cross-regional standardized processes and approaches to which cities can reliably align themselves, these challenges in most cases lead to very elaborate tender processes, and a lot of time and money must be invested for this. Another challenge is that the data collected by mobility as a service providers often cannot be used or processed because either the right interfaces or the experts are not available to draw the appropriate conclusions and make important adjustments to traffic planning or infrastructure. Furthermore, this information is also important in order to demand binding commitments and documentation from the providers based on it. Next slide, please. On the operator side, one of the biggest challenges is that the success of their businesses is increasingly dependent on winning key city tenders. Another challenge is the related application process, which vary from city to city. Since there are no standardized certification, evaluation, and qualification processes, providers here have to start again from zero with every application. This results in an enormous effort in terms of personal time and money, just as it does for the cities. Next big challenge for providers who actually offer a safe, sustainable, and beneficial mobility service is to be able to prove this easily, quickly, and reliably with the help of an objective authority that is recognized by the counterpart as a trustworthy and serious expert. Next slide, please. I cannot see the next slide. The next slide. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now one back, please. Perfect. Thanks. At DEKRA Digital, we have spent a lot of time thinking about how to overcome these challenges together in order to accompany and support both the cities and the mobility providers as an independent third party in the journey towards a more economically sustainable and flexible, but also truly safe and environmentally friendly mobility. With the following solution, we make our contribution. Next slide, please. The DEKRA Digital Micromobility Standard, consisting of a Europe-wide relevant valid base qualification, which has to be renewed every 24 months, and a locally relevant city certification, which has to be renewed every 12 months. The basic qualification is the foundation that each mobility provider must complete and pass once in order to be able to certify the cities of choice within Europe in the next step. All topics that are treated in the same way by providers across the European countries and therefore have international relevance, such as app structure, data security, or the general recycling policy of a provider, are tested and covered here. Next slide, please. The city certification refers to all topics that have a local relevance, such as the safety of the charging infrastructure in the warehouses or the safety of locally used asset types. Furthermore, topics such as local maintenance processes and sustainability efforts are valued. An example of this would be what vehicles are used for battery swapping. Is it a dirty 20-year-old diesel van or a nice emission-free electric cargo bike, for example? Long story short, we put a very big focus here on all the issues that are important to cities and in exchange with cities. In order to build a bridge between our test points and the database pain points of a large number of cities across Europe, we work together with Vianova, for example. Next slide, please. Our motivation and at the same time our greatest desire is to hereby contribute to a safe and rapid transition towards cleaner, more space-saving and more efficient mobility in our cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ousmane. Really insightful, and I think this kind of raising the bar across the industry is quite important. I think maybe this is even a good first question for all the panelists. Is there's a lot of opportunity for let's say differentiation or product differentiation among the different providers, among the different operators. But it sort of feels like safety is one of those things that that should be kind of non-negotiable. So I guess a question or a point for discussion is maybe thinking about how you know we sort of create this this ecosystem for minimum viable level of safety standard and safety expectation on the hardware side, in the same way that you know novel safety technologies in floating in vehicles, crash avoidance technology will eventually become standardized across the industry as well. I wonder if you feel like this is maybe for you, Wernher, or you, Emre, is this a short-term proposition? Is the iteration cycle quick enough? Is there more that cities can be doing to kind of goad operators into adopting some of these kind of next-gen improvements on the safety side through their tenders or licenses? Or is it something that the industry is kind of already rapidly pushing to on their own?
So I'd say it's both of them. So the cities are, of course, very interested in this topic, but also the whole industry is behind this, as we are here to stay and not just, you know, a hype for 1 or 2 years. So I would say at the moment, yeah, the industry is hardly working on that. There are different problems, as you can say, parking, for example, in the city. But there's then more on the infrastructure side, but also, like Wernher mentioned, when people are ride the scooter drunken evenings and so on, so you can implement tests. But for example, a friend can do the test for the other one. So the humans are always searching the hole to, you know, to cross the system, and so for that reason also we have to work closely with the police, closely work with the city to really minimize the accidents.
Yes, I agree to that. And at the moment we are also checking vehicles before they are allowed to operate here in Zurich, of course, according to Swiss legislation. We do not have a tender yet here in Zurich. Maybe we'll have one in a few years, and then it may well be that we are also putting restrictions concerning vehicle equipment into the tender. One thing that Emre has mentioned is the so-called alcohol test or alcohol lock. That's an interesting one, of course, because technology, I think, is ready for that. Yeah, maybe that we are enforcing that. I'd like to tell you a short thing that is very typical for Switzerland here. In Swiss legislation, there is a law that the indicators of a vehicle need to be 30 centimeters above the ground. So operators that have very nice vehicles that have indicators for showing the change of direction to the left or the right, they have to deinstall the indicators when they come to Switzerland because they are too low. So it's not only a city, it has different levels. The government of Switzerland also has to react and change laws, for example. It's just an example. Thank you.
One question that came up in the Q&A that maybe I want to expand on is the standardization in reporting information. So frankly, it can be a challenge to standardize collision statistics for vehicles across geographies, across countries, certainly. And I think this also extends to shared micromobility or micromobility in general. The way in which a police log is filed, the description of a bike as a scooter or a scooter as a bike or vice versa, can create real challenges and kind of a standardized or having apples to apples comparisons between modes and with the same mode across geographies. I'm wondering, kind of in the communities that you all travel in those standards communities, kind of what discussion is advancing around the way in which kind of collisions for these types of vehicles, whether private or shared, is being kind of documented and articulated, and what are the gaps remaining to kind of get to reliable reporting that can help contextualize the collision incidents compared to other modes.
I think e-scooters are sharing the same problem as all vehicles in traffic concerning reporting of crashes on a European level. There's a little bit of standardization, but it's not enough. The OECD is trying to put more standards, but of course, being here in Switzerland, I should not talk about contributing to this, because Switzerland has its own standards in many areas, but also in police reporting of crashes. Yeah, but you're right, Alex. I mean, this has to be standardized.
I think standardization is really like absolutely crucial and essential topics, and I think there's a huge chance in having certain standards. Yeah, and I think just everybody can win from it. I think it would be a lot easier for the cities if there was a standard. Many things would be able to be implemented a lot faster and would be a lot cheaper. And the same from the operators' side. If you have a look, that operators are facing different approaches and things that are demanded in every city across Europe. It's also really hard for the operators and a lot of effort and people that have to work on it to apply for different tenders. So I think it's a big chance there.
I think the other element to that is likely an educational component internal to cities as well, right? And the way in which certainly the traffic enforcement officers and others that are doing documentation of incidents kind of improve the reporting experience of those of that documentation, so that you wind up having a standardized, not just a standard set of fields, but actually a standard implementation of those fields in the data. Another question that came up in the QA, perhaps given maybe the duck orientation of the panel, it's a little gauche to critique another city, but there's a lot of discourse in Paris right now around the potential of a ban on e-scooters, related primarily to concerns about safe operations and safe riding behavior. Is there concern, or from your perspective, are there other recommendations or other elements that maybe should be implemented before the context of an outright ban? Maybe some other examples that you've seen around the world that you've considered emulating, or markets that you think are doing it quite well. One that I maybe would throw out is, I think, the Finnish approach to nighttime riding restrictions was a technique that cities in Finland took because they were concerned that nighttime riding was a risky proposition. There's obviously challenges there in terms of the access and availability of devices, but at least it was a targeted intervention rather than an outright ban. I'm wondering if there are other examples of kind of not just in your home turf, but around that you've seen that you think kind of can be a targeted intervention on the safety side.
So I'm not so much into the Paris details, to be honest, but when I take Switzerland as an example worldwide, I would say we in Switzerland, or the cities in Switzerland, they usually start with high regulation and also small fleet sizes compared to maybe Oslo in Norway. When they started, there was no rules at all and no caps in the fleet sizes. And then this changed. So also bad for the providers, also bad for the users that there's not so much vehicles around. In Switzerland, the approach is a little bit different. So the cities are starting with small caps, small fleets, but then increasing with time when they see, okay, we have there's no safety issues. We see that the demand is here. We have place for the scooters. And so for that reason, I'm very happy to sit in Switzerland and to work with Swiss cities. But as you said, like different cities around the world are dealing different with that. And we should not forget at the end that we are in need of different mobility solutions. We have to get rid of the cars in the inner city center. So we need options. It's not enough to just, ban the cars, ban the scooters, let the public transport at the same level. So there's a need to move, a need to take action, but it has to be aligned with all different stakeholders.
Yeah, from my side, maybe I think that Paris is on a really good way. Yeah, and if you have a look what the operators, the kick scooter shared kick or shared micromobility operators there are willing to contribute to being allowed to stay there. Yeah, I think they're on a good way. I think we have to also ask ourselves a question. So we have to, or we need an alternative to the mobility based on owning an own car that should be really satisfying. Yeah, and if you ask yourself, how should or how must such an alternative look like that people are willing to maybe sell their car or don't buy a new car. The result of that thinking is that that it has to be really flexible. So you need e-kick scooters, you need e-mobiles, you need e-bikes, you need e-cargo bikes, you need a great public transport, subway, tram, train, buses, all that together. And I think every mode of transport is meeting like a different demand. Yeah, and I think therefore all of them should be yeah, the people in the city should be able to use them, but it has to be yeah, it has to be clear or guaranteed that these modes are safe and sustainable and secure. And therefore I think it makes a lot of sense to have those tenders and to decide for the best ones on the one side. Yeah, but what I think, if you have a look at also what would be a satisfying mobility offer, we have to talk about tier 2 and tier 3 cities and rural areas. Yeah, and from an operator's perspective, it will not be possible to offer shared mobility in those areas because it simply doesn't make sense from an economical perspective. Yeah, so I think we also have to talk about financing. Yeah, and at that point, I think it's really important that the operators are not only asked to deliver more and more and more, but also if they prove that they do a proper job, safe, secure, and sustainable, that they will have access to subsidies that they are not having today.
Fair enough. Wernher, you want to bring us home? Any final thoughts or observations?
Oh, that's a challenge.
Sum us up.
I agree. I completely agree, and I can only add that by looking at the facts of road safety and for e-scooters, well, I could also have a ban on cars then here, Zürich, because first of all, they're doing harm to others. E-scooter drivers, from an ethical point of view, only harm themselves. And So I would not propose having a ban because of road safety. Thank you.
Fair enough. Well, gentlemen, thank you for your contributions. Participants, thank you for joining us in this webinar. I think some really insightful conversations. We'll of course follow up with the reporting to those that have registered, and look forward to kind of more discussion on this topic in the coming days. So thanks all, and we will see you on the internet soon.